you feed the most. Now, I'm not saying humans are perfect and do not have the capacity for that, but what the Gnostics talk about in their writings is that what the archontic force is doing is taking minor error and it is distorting it and expanding it into massive violations of these emotions and massive expansions and extremes of these emotions. So, this is what they are trying to generate with their mind parasite modus operandi, etc., in humans, because that's their life force. They are energetic vultures. The Matrix had this concept with Morpheus and the battery. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this. Symbolically, that is absolutely the case. And George Carlin said this, interestingly. Did you ever stop to think about all the people we kill? They're always the people who tell us to live together in harmony and try to love one another. Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, John Lennon. They all said, try to live peacefully together. Bam, right in the head. Apparently we're not ready for that. Or we're ready for it. But that which is manipulating us does not want us to have it. There was an Australian document came to light a few years ago. I printed it in full in a book called Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, which appears to come from quite a high-level Australian Satanist who wrote this before he died. And it was not a confession so much as this is what's going on, this is how it is. And he talked about many things, but he also talked about the fact that what Satanism does is it constantly targets the Earth's energy field at specific points to repeatedly do rituals there which lower the vibration of the Earth's energy field. Again, the sea that we're interacting with to push us down into the same low vibrational state. This is what he said in the document. Most people do not realize that Satanism is a ritually based practice and that this repetition has, over time, left strong impressions upon the morphic field, the energy field, the sea that I talk about. Now, this is massively, massively important. It's going to take us into some really weird and wonderful places. The language of symbolism. Why are these symbols, recurring symbols that I'm going to go through, why are they all around us? Well, I'm going to get to the point of why, and it's very deep in the rabbit hole that we go in here. But what are symbols? This is why it's so vital to understand at least the basics of the nature of reality to understand the conspiracy. Confucius said, signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor laws, nor... So why? This is why. A symbol is, again, a symbol in the holographic world. Bring it down to its basic state. It is a vibrational information field. A symbol communicates information to the brain through the eyes in the same way as the ear communicates audible visual words and sound to the brain as an information field. The difference is that when you hear something, at least you're aware of its existence. It is conscious. When a symbol talks to us through the eyes to the brain, it is subliminal. Therefore, symbols are planting information fields and vibrational states into the human subconscious, which then come through to influence conscious perception and conscious behavior. Also, if a symbol represents something, whatever it is, if you focus your attention on that symbol, you are making an energetic connection with what that symbol represents, because what it represents and the symbol, as I'll come to, will be the same frequency field. And thus, symbolism is one of the greatest ways that we are mentally and emotionally manipulated and encoded and perceptionally manipulated. There's a great saying, it's true. Energy flows where attention goes. Somebody said to me, other people have had this experience, they said they were in a restaurant, sitting at the table, and they said, I felt like two eyes were sticking in me back. And he said, I turned around, and there's this person at this other table behind them staring at them. Now, of course, they weren't feeling two eyes sticking in their back. What they were feeling energetically, which eventually filtered through to the holographic level of feeling, was the attention of the person staring at them. Energy flows where attention goes. So thus, if you can hijack someone's attention, collectively or individually, you are hijacking their energy and their life force. Energy flows where attention goes. Now, in the Olympics, I heard British athlete after British athlete during the London Olympics that was successful, saying that they got this amazing energetic surge from the crowd. This is why people doing sport among their own supporters have a great advantage, because as these athletes were competing in the London Games, overwhelmingly watched by British people, the focus of attention, willing them to win, was making an energetic connection to these people and thus energizing them. Energy flows where attention goes, but it goes the other way. And if you get a crowd of people focusing on symbols of the conspiracy and symbols representing these entities without us knowing, then that crowd, whether it's the Queen or whatever, are making an energetic attention connection to those entities. Thus their energy can be trawled. A crowd can have fantastic energy. You go to a football match, with a great excitement. And what do people say? Honestly, mate, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It was amazing. What was that? Electromagnetic energy generated by the crowd. That's what these people absorb. Same with the Vatican, with these great crowds that focus on the bloody Pope and the ritual and the symbols. Same with the symbol-infested bloody entertainment industry these days, with people like Madonna. And when you get people like focusing on a religious symbol, look at the bloody energy that would create and be able to be trawled. And when you get and focus like 5 days a week, I'm not having to go at one religion. I mean, they're all the same to me, and I respect people's right to believe what they want to believe, but I have my right to believe what I want to believe as well. That's the deal. And when you're focusing your attention like that, energy flows where attention goes. And thus, you have these secret societies that are also involved in energy trawling. And that brings me to this, which also goes into this, for reasons I'll come to. That Satanist in Australia talked about the abuse of children and what have you. And what is happening, and the reason for it, is that these entities operating outside of human sight, we'll call them archontic, they feed off human energy, yes, but there's a particular energy they want more than anything else, and that's the energy of children before puberty. We see puberty here as a hormonal change. You go back to the base construct, and it is a vibrational change which holographically expresses itself as hormonal change. These entities want that energy before the energy change happens. Therefore, they want the energy of pre-pubescent children. And how do they get it? They, through genetic reasons, because there's a lot of genetic paedophilia, but also through energy, what am I saying sorry to you? Well, you exist. You're part of all that exists. Of course I'll say sorry to you. Sorry, mate. You're all right. I'm sure you'll see things from another angle eventually. But anyway, what I was saying, yes, they also energetically stimulate the desire for sex with children. Because what they're doing with the paedophilia is they're using the paedophile as the conduit to draw off the life force of the child. And that's why you find, as my research has shown over the years, a far higher ratio of paedophilia to these so-called elite levels in Satanism than you find in the general population. This is what a Central American shaman called Don Juan Matus said in a book by Carlos Castaneda some years ago. Sorcerers see infant human beings as strange luminous balls of energy, covered from the top to the bottom with a glowing coat, something like a coat of plastic adjusted tightly around a cocoon of energy. The glowing coat of awareness is what the predators consume, and when a human reached adulthood, all that is left in that fringe of awareness is a narrow fringe that goes from the ground to the top of the toes. That fringe permits mankind to keep on living, but only barely. So, like I say, they're using the paedophile as the conduit to draw off the child's life force. That's what paedophilia is about, and that's why it's so prevalent, and that's why it's so incredibly prevalent in the institutional bloodline levels of society. And this Australian Satanist said, politicians, massive Satanism in politics around the world, politicians are introduced by a carefully graded set of criteria and situations that enable them to accept that their victims will be our little secret. Young children sexually abused, molested rather, and physically abused by politicians worldwide are quickly used as sacrifices. In Australia, the bodies are hardly ever discovered, for Australia is still a wilderness. In the other parts of the world, they control the crematoria and the great burial grounds around the world as well. And so I was not in the least bit surprised about him, because I was told about him in the late 1990s that he was into massive paedophilia and necrophilia, sex with dead bodies, which has just come out this week through a guy who talked about it on the radio. And the reason that Jimmy Savile, this entertainer who died in 2011, the reason he got away with it was because he was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. And he was very, very close to the British royal family. In fact, in his own words, he was introduced to the royal family by Lord Louis Mountbatten, who some researchers have connected to paedophilia in places like the King Cora Children's Home in Belfast. He, Edward Heath, who the Prime Minister 70-74, who took us into the what is now the European Union, I named him as not just a paedophile, but a Satanist and serial child killer 7 years before he died. And he did nothing about it, because it's true. This guy, Thomas Hamilton, the killer of the children in Dunblane in 1996, he was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. That's why he was protected for so long. And that's why, in the official inquiry into what he did, some of the documents were put under lock and key, never to be seen, it was said, for 100 bloody years. Even a former head of Freemasons in Scotland, Lord Burton, said the Dunblane inquiry was a cover-up and that he was bullied when he tried to question it. And this very week, 2 days ago, an MP raised in the House of Commons a question about paedophilia rings out of number 10. I've been naming this guy, the President of the United States, Father George Bush, as a paedophile and child killer since the 1990s. Said it in radio, said it on the BBC, didn't make the podcast, mind, but I've been saying it for years. It almost came out in this story in 1989, but then was put on hold and suppressed. And of course, the Roman Church, which is an expression of these bloodlines going way back, Church of Babylon relocated, is infamous for paedophilia. This is the reason why. That's why you see naked children all over the Vatican when you go around. And what are demons doing in a sporting event ceremony around kids in hospital beds? Can you explain that to me? I thought that was bloody weird. What is the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang bloody doing in a sporting event opening ceremony? I tell you, it was alive with symbolism, that was. And I've been saying for years that these bloodlines drink the blood of children to rejuvenate themselves, and that's one major reason why they live so long. Queen Mother, 102. Prince Philip in his 90s. David Rockefeller, 97. Henry Kissinger, almost in his 90s. They live for so long. One reason is they get different treatment to us, but this is another.